Now let's look at SQL injection and how to protect against it. And I'm going to start with an example. So I'm going to create a new account, and the name is going to be X. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm actually going to add a single quote and then a semicolon, and then insert into users, username, comma, hash, values, special, and then for the hash I'm going to put 0, semicolon, and then the SQL comment character dash dash. Let me go ahead and add a password. And before I hit submit, let me go back here to look up user and put breakpoint and enable debugging, and then I'm going to hit register. So the first thing register account does is it tries to look up the user to see if the user already exists. And what it's going to do is it's going to take my username and it's going to stick it right here in this query statement. So let's see what we get when I step past there. And then I'm going to view the whole query. So I have select star from users where username is X semicolon. So that's a perfectly valid SQL statement. And then here's a second SQL statement. Insert into users, username hash, values, special 0 semicolon, dash dash. And if I'm talking to a database that allows multiple SQL statements to be sent in one query, I've not only checked to see whether the user exists, but I've also added a brand new user to the database with a hash value that I control. Now, fortunately, this particular query doesn't actually work here. If I go ahead and connect and then step, I actually get false for the result. And if I look at my database connection, I see there was actually an error here. I have an error in my SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL version, server version for the right syntax to use near, insert, into, and so on. So this particular example doesn't work on this particular database with dbQuery, because dbQuery only takes single SQL statements. But there's also db multi-query, which does take multiple statements. And if I had been using that, the SQL injection attack would actually work here. So instead of getting an error, I actually would have allowed somebody to create an arbitrary user account with an arbitrary password hash. So here I just get an error, but something bad might have happened. This is even worse if you look at something like, let's go ahead and execute this. I'm going to go back, and here I'm going to say X single quote semicolon drop table users semicolon dash dash and hit register. Oh, and I need to supply password, so password. So now let's look at what I would have gotten. Select star from users where username equals X semicolon drop table users semicolon. And this will actually delete my users table. But fortunately it won't work here either because multi-statements are disabled for query. So I get the same errors I got before. So the potential exists for lots of bad things to happen when people are sending multiple statements to the database, which is a common thing to do. So let's fix that. And the way I'm going to fix it is by using something called real escape string. And I'm going to reorder this a little bit. I'm going to make the database connection first, like so. And then I'm going to set safe username equal to database pointer real escape string, and I'm going to pass username in here. And then instead of using username, I'm going to use safe under username. So let's go ahead and try it now. Reload, continue. So username is still the same thing I typed before, but watch what happens when I execute real escape string. So safe username gets a backslash in front of the single quote, which is the SQL syntax for escaping single quotes. So this means that this whole thing is one big string instead of being a string that's terminated followed by a semicolon followed by some other stuff. So now if I execute the query, it actually works correctly. And the account that I'm logged into is X single quote drop table user semicolon dash dash. So it treated this whole username as one string instead of trying to interpret it as two separate SQL commands, which is what you want. So I'm going to do the same thing for add user. Let's go ahead and disable debugging. And here username is a value that the user entered, so I want to make that safe. Hash is a value I calculated, so I don't need to worry about that. You only need to escape strings that were supplied by the user. So I'm going to once again move my database connection up here, and then I'm going to set safe username equal db real escape string username, and then here I'm going to use safe username. So now that's safe as well. So this is one way of preparing data using real escape string. Another way of doing it is by using parameter binding. That's a little more advanced, so we'll talk about that next week.